الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا وسيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله ارسله بالهدى والحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا وصلى الله عليه وعلى اله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اما بعد فاعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولله في السماوات والارض والله على كل شيء قدير إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار والآيات والذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا سبحانك وقنا عذاب النار صدق الله العظيم اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني اللهم ارنا الحق وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم اعز وحشتنا في القران وانصرنا بالقران واجعل فينا So I'm just reciting the opening section of the last part of the wonderful sequence of ayahs. It's a parallel also with how Baqarah and the structural parallels between the Baqarah and the mentioned by our teacher Dr. Islam was تدبر القرآن in school Islam. And I'm sure no one is deeply familiar with that today. And so they open Baqarah al-Imran, the beginning of the section that's roughly the midway point of the parallel and the sequence of are a number of indicators that guide us in vision. There are also thematic complementarity between the two. One that discusses topics that drive us toward the level of practice and document. And then we also have post-reference, the things that transpire in that demand. A wonderful piece of love the guidance that provided us here today. But I think this last section for today, because there's something deeply special about it for me. I connect with it. And so I'm going to share that connection with you. The distinctive feature of this is, if you notice, الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم. Men or people, those who remember God standing and sitting and on the يذكرون on the one hand. And on the other hand, ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. And they think deeply, reflect on the creation of the heavens. And so, what I love about this is it brings these two things, ritual and secret, together. What we see in the world, in our own religiosity perhaps, is inclined to either dhikr or to sikr, either or. If you're in circles of dhikr, that's where you get absorbed. And you think that's the be-all and end-all of religious life, of the devotional life. Or you're in these circles of sikr, perhaps at a university or secular learning, thinking about, and here it says explicitly, the creation of the heavens and the earth. That's the physicists do, and geologists do, and if you take it by extension, life, biologists do, we'll talk about some of these disciplines. But those who are in the world of fikr today, maybe this was always the case to some extent, and we have our own explanations of fun. But today, we see those who are in the world of fikr tend to disregard dhikr. And those who are immersed in the world of dhikr, they won't worry too much about fikr. This generalization, there are people who are balanced. But the iron here is not either or. It's both. What? Not out. It's not you either do dhikr or I will do dhikr. They do both. And so you're a scientist. You also remember God. Always remembering God. So you gaze out into the universe. You're remembering God. And if you are a devotee, a mystic, someone who is absorbed in the world of devotion and ibadah I put in quotes because it's all ibadah. You're remembering God when you're doing dhikr, it's not outside of the fold of ibadah. But those who tend to be in this world of dhikr, they poo-poo them. Those who do dhikr. These people are thinking too much about these other things, but we need to be remembering God. But the ayah here is not either or. It's both. And that's a lost way of being that the Quran is reminding us of in this section. And so, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ in the creation of the heavens and the earth. Like there's the ayat of the Quran, that gives us the beauty of the source for zikr. But then there are also ayat in the universe. And that is the force or the object that then inspires zikr. Alright. And we know that the Quran refers to itself as zikr. Inna nahnu nazzalna zikr. Which we have sent down as reminder. The Quran is a reminder to us. There are things that we perhaps know intuitively and we forget. We get lost. We get distracted. And the Quran reminds us. This is a reminder that has been sent down to us. It's also thereby a guide. فإن يأتي Buddha. And so the Zakir bil Quran reminds through this Quran those who fear the warning. And this Quran has been made easy. If you think it's difficult to approach, there's something wrong, not with the Quran, but with you. Right? But it says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ. It makes it easy as a reminder. And so, if you feel a barrier, there's something that you're not positioning yourself correctly. So reposition, reset. See if you can come back to this. It is not that hard. It's not supposed to be. We made it easy. But then when we turn to Sukha, we gaze out into the universe. And how do we know what we're looking at? This is science. Behind it is one of the branches of philosophy, epistemology. How do we know what we know? And the ulama thought deeply about these questions. Actually, one of the first things they talked about when they, in the teachings of Kalam, philosophical theology, was epistemology. How do we know what we know? What are our sources of valid knowledge that we can work with? And so, it's very important for us to keep track of, because there are differences between how we understood these things in the past and how we are understanding them today. Right? So I'm coming to some things that we're going to find deeply challenging. So, follow this. Some of us think that it's just all too easy. You have the Quran, it says these things, all you have to do is read it, and there's no discussion. That's what it says. And what I'd like to propose to you today, and I think you probably conclude it as quite obvious, is this is a huge fallacy. And this is why we have streams of interpretation. Because people differ on what it says. And so when you are listening to somebody who says, that's all we need to do. You have to know that it's not that simple. Okay? Let me make my case. It's a bit like, think of it when other people do this. If someone says, well, the Bible says, you obviously misunderstand. You think that's ridiculous. How do we do? Because you have all these different groups that read the same Bible or slightly different versions of it actually. But that's all the result of human interpretation. There's even people, an interesting parallel is when people say, politicians, they pull out, I'm going to read the Constitution. Well, really? Do you really think that that's a good argument? Why do they dispute about which judge to appoint? Because they have different schools of interpretation of that Constitution. Right? So we're human beings, we're human conditions. And we are now people of text and tradition. And we have interpretive traditions that we have inherited. And so, when you say, oh, listen to the Quran and Sunnah, who is Quran and Sunnah? You have to Qadi, and still the names, 2 days you might, know. So, under the Hebrew, you're Muhammad Islam, you're Muhammad Islam, you're Mustafa, who I respect a lot. I'm not trying to undermine anything. I'm asking to invite us to think deeper. The deep, and this is not anything new. Even within the Sunni tradition, which is so cohesive, we have different schools of thought. And then we have schools beyond that. This is a result of human effort in history. And even beyond the legal schools, we have theological schools. You have Hanafis who are Maturidi. You have Hanafis who are Mu'tazila. And you have Hanafis who follow the Ash'ari tradition. Very reasonable. I give you those stories. Mine takes time. I want to make a quick point. I remember this in my own experience. This was about 20 years ago, when we had the moon fighting. And there'd always be two different days. Some people would, I've got a call from my home and wherever it is, Pakistan or Saudi Arabia, they have to see the moon, we're going. And others would say, no, we're waiting for the local sighting, either local, hyper-local, or national even, right? And then there'd be different opinions. And it really bothered people. Because I think it's just like we all want to be together, right? And I'm not going to resolve this issue, I'm not going to take sides here. I'm just discussing the phenomenon. And so it never bothers me, I'll be honest with you. We're all trying to follow the movie. We're all going to pass. We have slightly different interpretation on when it begins. We can have these little arguments. But look at the laugh, it's part of the game. It's part of life. It's always been part of history. It was even part of the experience of the Sahara, on different issues. And I can share a story from the Sahara as well. And so, I remember when these debates were going on, the Sixth Council of North America, we're going to solve this once and for all. When you hear that, you know that this is not going to happen. Right? So what was the solution? Obviously, astronomical calculations, birds of the moon. I remember this clear as day. The first year the Sixth Council went with this, we had 3, not 2. Because the first of the moon came before anybody else, and they went with calculation, and then somebody from overseas in the local moon said it. And so, instead of making us 1, we became 3. And so, what we have to realize is we're always going to live with difference. There's differences within Islam, and there are differences outside of Islam. Human beings different. What do we do with this? Some people, they look at religion, and they say, well, there's no point. They can't even agree amongst themselves. That's a ridiculous critique. Because you never say that about other disciplines. But you can have your critique, your differences between quantum theorists. There are different theories about what's a standard model, and then they have other possible solutions to the problems. Even doctors, you can get a second opinion down the street from one doctor. And so, you don't give up medicine. What you do is, all right, We're human beings, we are fallible, and we have to make the best effort that we possibly can. Have faith, be humble, and move on, right? Without being overly aggressive or confident about your own position. And this is, even Imam al-Shafi'i, we know that famous saying, this beautiful saying of the Imam that, look, when I'm debating with someone, it's for the sake of the truth, and I really wish that it's uttered by my opponent, so that I can have the privilege of recognizing it and submitting, rather than the glory of outdoing them and losing myself in my vanity. So this is our tradition. It's back, and in the classical epistemological tradition, this is epistemology, the philosophical branch of philosophy of the sources of knowledge. In Ilm al-Kalam, they are the three valid sources of knowledge. This ayat that are taught. When you get an ayat that's absolutely indisputable, this is the valid source of knowledge. We all get it. Get it right. This is not how community works after the final revelation. And so, this is how knowledge works. And Imam al-Ghazali, in his Kitab al-Usul, it's a book on usul, but it starts by discussing epistemology even in the school book. It's very interesting. And he says there, it's very brief and concrete. He says there are two kinds of ulum. Dini and Aqli. Alright? And with the Dini, you have, Tafsir, and then Hadith, and so on, Riwayah. And with Aqli, you have things like mathematics, right? Medicine, and these types of undertones of the stars. This is all because of the word. Now we can misunderstand this passage. He's not saying that the Islamic sciences are not rational, or there's no God over there.